Hello everybody, I'm doing something a little bit different today. I bought this a while back, Pure Terror Classic 50 movie feature. It does have 50 classic horror movies on them. I'd say most of them are probably B movies, but I decided I'm going to try to go through and watch all of them. So here is the first movie. The Amazing Transparent Man was released in 1960, and it stars Marguerite Chapman, and this is her final feature film appearance. Douglas Kennedy and James Griffith. Red Morgan is also in it. He kind of has just like a minor role. It's nothing too big or crazy. But IMDb says this movie is about a crazed scientist who invents an invisibility formula. He plans to use this formula to create an army of invisible zombies. Sounds like fun, right? Well, we'll find out. So basically, there's a bank robber named Faust. He's like the world's greatest safe cracker, vault cracker, whatever. He's breaking out of prison in the very beginning, and they're shooting at him with a machine gun, as you do. He manages to escape and gets to the road where he meets Laura, who picks him up and takes him away. They hit a police blockade, and he pretends to be asleep, and Laura says that he passed out drunk, and cop decides for some reason not to wake him up and check his ID. I don't know why he wouldn't, but whatever. So Laura takes him to this farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. I really don't remember where this movie's from. I don't think they specifically said, but it's just a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. There, he gets to meet Major Krenner and Julian. Julian, who is played by Red Morgan, is basically just a hired hand here. He doesn't really have anything too important happening in the movie, so don't really have to worry about him. So, Major Krenner, he's a major of the U.S. Army.
What army? Well, there have been several. Take your choice.
He's fiddling with this thing. It's not really important, but he's always fiddling with this thing. That is apparently what ended his military career. It's a piece of shrapnel. I would assume it hit him in the head. It's not really important, but throughout the movie, he's fiddling with it, like, all the time. So, Major Krenner tells Faust he wants him to work for him to steal stuff, because he's the greatest safe cracker, combo cracker ever. And Faust, reasonably laughs because he just broke out of prison. Everybody's going to know who he is, what he looks like. And then Major Krenner just decides to, just vaguely threaten his daughter because he knows that Faust's wife turned him in and he's never met his daughter. And there's apparently a $5,000 reward that can be claimed if he's alive or dead. So Faust just kind of says, okay, let's do this. So they go upstairs in the house to meet Dr. Yulof. And he is a nuclear scientist who in World War II was tricked into experimenting on his wife. She had a bag on her head, so he didn't know it was her, but she died. He doesn't really say this now. He'll explain it later when Faust goes upstairs. They tell him that they want to use him to steal more nuclear materials. That's just what they say. Nuclear materials, fissionable materials. So they're going to turn him invisible. But they don't tell him that like right away. They're going to show him how he's going to steal all this stuff. So they go into a lead-lined room. It looked like it was about 6 inches of lead-lined room. And the doctor starts this ridiculous turn-on thing where he talks to the guinea pig for like half a second. And then 2 minutes, it's just him turning on equipment. Like nothing else happens. He's just him turning on equipment. So he goes in there and turns on the machine. The guinea pig turns invisible. And it's kind of a fun little scene where he slowly fades out. They prove that the guinea pig is okay. Faust agrees to do it. And then they bring the guinea pig back to visibility. So they go downstairs to call it a night. Faust still isn't up for all of this. He just wants to leave. But Yulof goes out for the night, tells Julian to watch his door. So Julian peeks in. Faust is pretending to sleep, and then he leaves. He sits facing away from the door, so he's already not doing what Major Krenner wanted. then Faust gets up, starts rubbing this cup on the door. Julian comes to investigate and he knocks him out. Then he goes upstairs and he's curious about this door that's locked, and Major Krenner told him not to worry about what's up there. So he's kind of curious. And then the doctor shows up and is like, "What are you doing?" Like, "I was sleeping." And Faust is like, he was yelling when he went upstairs. So I don't know how the doctor didn't wake up before. But I guess it's not really important. So the doctor tells him his backstory and that his daughter is the one who's actually behind that door, and he wants Faust to let her out so they can leave. As soon as he tries to open the door, Laura shows up, ushers him back downstairs, and tells the doctor to stay up there. When they get downstairs, Faust starts talking to Laura about like just running off with her and the equipment to turn invisible, and he'll split the money with her. And she says, "Well, how can I trust you? Because it's either going to be a bullet from you or my throat slit from Major Krenner." So it's whatever. But then Julian comes out, knocks Faust out, and they drag him back into the room because Major Krenner came back and they don't want to get in trouble. Laura tells Julian not to tell Faust, but he does anyways. So the next morning, Major Krenner confronts Laura because Julian told him what she was planning on doing. And, you know, this is one of the points in the movie that it kind of shows you he does not like women. Like, he slaps the crap out of her. It's great. I mean, it's not great that he hit her, but it's kind of a funny scene.
I thought you were out in the lab.
I draw the line.
But yeah, so I didn't do anything. And they go upstairs and it's time to finally turn Faust invisible. This is just over halfway through the movie. The movie is 58 minutes long. This happens at 31 minutes. So we have gone through half the movie with really nothing happening other than he broke out of prison and they turned a guinea pig invisible. But it's finally time for him to turn invisible. So he lays down. The doctor tells him it's not going to hurt, but he might pass out. And this machine uses X-ray, alpha, beta, and omega, and ultraviolet rays to render. Yeah, it uses X-ray, alpha, beta, omega, and ultraviolet rays to neutralize tissues instead of just seeing to the bone. So it turns you completely invisible, I guess. It's not, I don't know. It's not quite like an X-ray like they say, but... So he screams, pretty funny, and turns invisible. And then they're like, "Oh yeah," and then he somehow disappears. So they're like, "Where'd he go?" First thing he does is he pulls a Kevin Bacon in Hollow Man and he assaults Laura. Like, I'm pretty sure he groped her and then he kissed her.
He's gone.
It's Faust. He's...
Can't really tell because he's invisible, but I just think it's funny that he did that. That's the first thing he did. So he goes, he attacks Krenner, basically tells him he needs to pay him $25,000 a job, and that's his going rate. Krenner agrees because he's scared shitless, and they go off, and then they go to the nuclear vault here to go steal the nuclear materials. Laura drives him there. She's the driver. He goes in, he successfully turns off the alarm, he cracks the safe, he walks out with the nuclear material, but the guard catches him and pulls his gun. He pulls his gun out, goes up, he starts getting hit. Instead of shooting at something that is hitting him, even though he can't see it, he just tries to punch him. And it's kind of a funny scene there, too. It happens, and they get out, and Laura takes him back to the farmhouse. The mission was a success, and yay! So back at there, that night, back at the farmhouse, Major Krenner is talking to Yulof about the X-13, which is what he stole from the safe, what Faust stole. And it's experimental, and Dr. Yuloff tries to tell Major Krenner that he doesn't want to use it because he's already irradiating and they got radiation poisoning and the guinea pig died. Or the guinea pig is dead from radiation poisoning, and it's the same thing is going to happen to Faust. It's going to take longer to turn him invisible, and it'll be faster for him to become visible.
It's too early to tell, but each time it will take longer to reduce him to invisibility, less to return him to normal states.
So Major Krenner tells Dr. Yuloff to use the X-13 on him, and then the doctor's like, no, I don't want to use that because it will kill him. I want to work with it more. But Major Krenner's just like, he threatens his daughter, Dr. Yuloff caves in, and that they can make an army, and, you know, they can make an army and everything will be okay. So Yuloff reluctantly agrees. The next day they turn him back invisible again, but this time using the X-13. On their way to the vault again, they have to do it in the daytime because they raised security or something at night, so they have to do it in the daytime. But on the way there, Faust convinces Laura to just go to a bank, and he'll split it with her. She'll get 40%. And she agrees, so they go to the bank. He successfully robs it, but on his way out, he turns partially visible again and then fully visible, and so he leaves. Everybody knows it's him now. He's the one who stole the nuclear materials because he was spotted at the bank, and there's no doubt that it was him. So Laura takes him back to the farmhouse, kind of outside range of the farmhouse. He splits the money with her like he said he was gonna. He turns back invisible, so he just ditches her, and he leaves. But for some reason, he just goes back to the farmhouse. So at the farmhouse, Major Krenner is telling Dr. Yuloff that they have to leave, and they can start over somewhere else, and he can continue his research to build this army. Dr. Yuloff doesn't want to build the army because it'll be an army of dead men from radiation poisoning.
An invisible army is worth billions.
An army of dead men, Major.
That is the closest we get to any mention of zombies or anything close to them. It's not a lot, but that's the closest we get. Major Krenner threatens his daughter again, so he agrees, and then Major Krenner opens the door, lets his daughter out. Then Faust, he shows up, pushes him in there, locks the door. So then it's just a now visible Faust with the doctor and his daughter. He gets them outside. They go downstairs. Laura's there. He locks Laura in a room. Faust does. And then he leaves with the doctor. Outside at the car, the doctor is explaining to Faust that he doesn't want to continue doing this because Faust is trying to tell him they can go to Mexico and do this more, and he can just make a bunch of money. But the doctor is dying of radiation poisoning, and he lets Faust know that he is too, and Faust only has about a month to live. And what kind of world would he want his daughter to live in if he lets an army of invisible soldiers take over the U.S.? So Faust is like, he kind of gives up, gives Dr. Yuloff the money he stole, and goes back inside. He lets Laura out of the room, only for her to be immediately shot by Krenner, who broke out of the room. He shoots the door a bunch of times to get out. So he lets her out to immediately die. They get in a fight. They go upstairs. They're fighting around, rolling around. Major Krenner turns on the machine again. I don't know why, but he just does. Then, as they're rolling around, the machine kind of gets knocked over, and it starts pointing at the X-13, which is just lying on the ground for no reason. And, you know, as they're fighting, screaming, the X-13 has a nuclear reaction. It explodes, killing Faust and Krenner, and everything else. So then the end of the movie is police barring reporters from going into the area where there's too much fallout. And then they're talking to Dr. Yuloff about how an army of invisible people would be great. The doctor's like, oh, the CIA has already talked to me about that, and it's not a good idea. And then he turns to the camera and he makes this like some kind of moral dilemma, and he goes, "What would you do?" And then the movie's over. I don't know why they turned it into a moral dilemma. We're not going to have an army of invisible people. But as a movie and as a whole, I'd give it a 3 out of 5. It was okay. It wasn't the greatest movie, but it was good for an Invisible Man movie. I just wish there would have been more Invisible Man scenes. But yeah, that was one movie down. I do plan on doing all of them. So hopefully here in another week or two, I can get another one done. I'll do a watch party on Twitch. We'll watch another one together for the first time, and I'll work on another review. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.
What would you do?